I was nearly killed in a brutal truck accident and rushed to the hospital in a coma. But when doctors called my parents, they said, "We're busy. Our other daughter's walking her pig." A week later, they arrived to find my bed empty, with only a chilling note that left them frozen in shock. And Claire Henderson, and I was 28 when a speeding truck tore through a Chicago crosswalk and nearly ended my life. The screech of tires, the blinding flash of headlights, and the bone-crushing impact are seared into my memory like a nightmare I can't wake from. I was flung into the air, my body twisting in slow motion, my purse and phone skittering across the rain-slicked pavement. As I lay there, blood pooling beneath me, the world fading to black, one thought clawed at my fading consciousness. Will they come for me this time? My parents, Margaret and Thomas Henderson, the picture-perfect power couple of Chicago's elite, had been given every chance to show up for me. They didn't. Instead, they chose my sister's teacup pig, Penelope, over their daughter fighting for her life. That night, I didn't just survive a truck. I survived the shattering realization that I was invisible to the people who were supposed to love me most. Reaching up in our sleek, modern mansion in the affluent Chicago suburb of Winnetka, I thought we had it all. My mother, Margaret, was a high-profile divorce attorney, the kind who could make a cheating CEO tremble in court while looking like she stepped out of a Vogue spread. My father, Thomas, was a hedge fund manager, all sharp suits and sharper ambition, managing billions for Chicago's elite. Our home was a showcase of glass walls, minimalist furniture, and curated art. Everything screamed success. Family photos lined the marble fireplace, but even in those, I was always slightly out of frame, my sister Vanessa's smile front and center. To the outside world, we were the Hendersons, wealthy, polished, untouchable, but inside those walls, I was the afterthought, the second child who could never measure up to Vanessa, the golden daughter, and her $10,000 0-cents designer teacup pig, Penelope. Vanessa was 31, 3 years older than me, and she'd mastered the art of being adored without earning it. She was a mediocre Instagram influencer, peddling overpriced athleisure and smoothie recipes to her modest following, but to my parents, she was a star. Every whim was indulged, every tantrum soothed. When she turned 25, they gifted her Penelope, a fluffy, pink-nosed teacup pig who became the family's third child. And, frankly, Penelope wasn't just a pet. She was a lifestyle. Vanessa dressed her in custom Gucci collars, fed her organic kale smoothies, and hired a pig whisperer to manage her emotional well-being. My parents ate it up, cooing over Penelope's every snort, while I faded into the background. I wasn't asking for much. I just wanted to be seen. As a kid, I threw myself into everything, coding clubs, math Olympiads, anything to prove I was worthy of their attention. At 16, I won a national coding competition, beating out hundreds of kids to take first place. I remember standing on that stage, clutching my trophy, scanning the crowd for my parents' faces. They weren't there. They were at Penelope's pig pageant, a ridiculous event, where Vanessa paraded her around in a tutu for a crowd of pet influencers. Penelope gets stage fright, my mother explained later, not meeting my eyes. We couldn't leave Vanessa to handle it alone. I swallowed the hurt, smiled, and tucked the trophy into a closet. It's still there, gathering dust. The pattern only got worse. When I earned a partial scholarship to MIT for cybersecurity, I thought they'd finally be proud. Instead, they dismissed it as impractical and refused to help with tuition, forcing me to take out crushing student loans. That same month, they bankrolled Vanessa's latest venture, a luxury pet spa for Penelope, complete with a heated pool and aromatherapy for pigs. Penelope's sensitive skin needs specialized care, my father said, as if my future was less urgent. I worked 2 jobs through college, coding late into the night while Vanessa posted Instagram stories of Penelope's spa days, racking up likes my parents treated like Nobel Prizes. One memory stings sharper than the rest. I was 19, home for the summer, and we were at a family lake house in Wisconsin. I was swimming, finally feeling free, when Vanessa shrieked that Penelope was startled by my splashing. Before I could react, she shoved me hard, and I slipped under the water, my foot catching on a weed. The lake was deeper than I realized, and panic set in as I thrashed, unable to break free. I could hear Vanessa yelling about Penelope's trauma as I fought for air. By some miracle, I untangled myself and surfaced, gasping, only to see my parents comforting Vanessa on the shore, oblivious to my near drowning. "You need to be more careful around Penelope," my mother scolded me later as I shivered in a towel. That was the first time I realized my life might not matter as much as a pig's. After MIT, I moved to a cramped apartment in Chicago's West Loop, scraping by on my junior cybersecurity analyst salary at Nexus Tech, a top firm. Vanessa, meanwhile, lived rent-free in our parents' downtown loft, her influencer career fully funded. I stretched every dollar, sometimes choosing between groceries and rent, while Vanessa's Instagram showed Penelope's latest $500 0-cents custom harness. My therapist, Dr. Lauren Brooks, was the first to name what I couldn't: toxic favoritism. "You're not invisible, Claire," she said during one session, "but your family's choices are making you feel that way." Her words hit hard, but I still clung to hope that I could earn their love. My best friend, Sophie Miller, a fellow analyst, saw the unfairness clearer than I did. When my parents bailed on my 27th birthday dinner for Penelope's adoption anniversary party, complete with a pig-shaped cake and a pet photographer, she was livid. "This isn't normal, Claire," she said, her voice shaking. "They're choosing a pig over you." I brushed it off, but deep down I knew she was right. I kept trying, kept achieving, kept hoping they'd see me. I was wrong. A turning point came when I was selected as a finalist for a lead cybersecurity role at Nexus Tech, a promotion that would double my salary and secure my future. The final hurdle was a high-stakes presentation to the executive board at a gala dinner. This was my shot, the culmination of years of late nights and relentless hustle. I called my parents weeks in advance, practically begging them to come. "We'll be there, sweetheart," my mother said, her voice warm for once. "Just send us the details." I let myself believe they meant it, picturing their proud faces in the audience. I spent weeks perfecting my slides, practicing in front of my bathroom mirror, imagining their applause. 4 days before the gala, Vanessa sent a group text, demanding an emergency family meeting. I arrived at our parents' mansion to find her pacing the living room, Penelope lounging on a velvet cushion that cost more than my monthly rent. "Penelope's showing signs of emotional distress," Vanessa announced, her voice quivering with drama. "Her pet therapist says she needs an intensive family retreat to stabilize her." The retreat was scheduled for the exact time of my presentation. I pleaded with them, my voice cracking. "This is my career, my future. I told you about this weeks ago." My mother looked away, fussing with her pearl earrings. "Penelope's mental health is fragile, Claire. You know how sensitive she is." My father nodded, avoiding my gaze. "Your work thing can be rescheduled, right?" I stood there, stunned, as Vanessa cooed at Penelope, who snorted contentedly. I drove home, tears blurring my vision, but a fire was kindling inside me. I would do this without them. The morning of the gala, I woke with a strange calm. I slipped into a tailored black dress, my hair pulled back, and rehearsed my talking points one last time. My boss, Rachel Winters, had warned me the stakes were sky high. "Fail this, Claire, and you're out. We're downsizing, and only the best survive." The pressure was crushing, but I channeled it into focus. At the venue, a glittering downtown ballroom, I scanned the crowd for my parents. Empty seats stared back. I pushed down the hurt and stepped onto the stage. For 45 minutes, I owned that room, breaking down complex cybersecurity threats with confidence, fielding questions with ease, even cracking a joke that had the CEO chuckling. The applause was deafening, and Rachel pulled me aside afterward. "You nailed it, Claire. This is senior-level material." I grinned, my chest swelling with pride I'd earned on my own. Afterward, my colleagues dragged me to a nearby bar for celebratory drinks. Sophie raised a glass. "To Claire, our future lead analyst." The cheers washed over me, and for a moment, I forgot my family's absence. It was nearly midnight when I left, declining Sophie's offer to share an Uber. "I need to clear my head," I said, stepping into the chilly Chicago night. The streets were slick with rain, streetlights reflecting off wet pavement. I was replaying the gala in my mind, wondering if my parents had even thought of me when I reached a crosswalk. The walk signal glowed green, and I stepped forward. I never saw the truck. A horn blared, headlights blinded me, and then impact. My body was airborne, the world spinning in sickening slow motion. Pain exploded as I hit the ground, my limbs crumpling like paper. Screams echoed around me, strangers' voices shouting for an ambulance. Blood pooled beneath me, warm and metallic mixing with the rain. As my vision blurred, one thought lingered. Will they come now? Then darkness swallowed me whole. I woke to the sterile beep of machines, the antiseptic smell of a hospital room. My eyelids felt like lead, but I forced them open. Harsh fluorescent lights made me wince. A nurse, Rachel, leaned over me, her voice gentle. "Welcome back, Claire. I'm Rachel, your nurse. Try not to move." A tube in my throat choked my words, and panic surged until Rachel's calm broke through. "You're on a ventilator to help you breathe. You've been in a coma for 48 hours. You're in the ICU at Chicago General." Fragments of the accident flashed back. Rain, headlights, pain. I blinked, trying to ask about my family, but my eyes did the talking, darting around the empty room. No flowers, no cards, just cold medical equipment. Rachel's face softened. "We've contacted your emergency contacts. Dr. Patel will explain more soon." When the breathing tube was removed, my voice was a raspy whisper. Dr. Patel, a weary man with kind eyes, stood at my bedside. "You're lucky to be alive, Miss Henderson. The truck missed your vital organs by inches, but you've got a shattered pelvis, brain trauma, and internal bleeding. You've had 2 surgeries already." I swallowed, my throat raw. "My parents, are they here?" Dr. Patel hesitated, and before he could answer, I heard voices in the hallway. "We've called her parents repeatedly," a male nurse said. Her mother said they couldn't come because their other daughter was walking her pig and needed support. The words hit harder than the truck. I was in a coma, fighting for my life, and they chose Vanessa's pig walk over me. Hot tears burned my eyes as the truth sank in. I was nothing to them. Dr. Patel adjusted my IV, his voice soft. "Sometimes people don't react the way we expect in a crisis, but I knew better. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was who they were." Rachel checked on me daily, her presence a lifeline in the sterile void. My phone, recovered from the accident, buzzed with messages from Sophie and colleagues, but not a single text from my family. On day 3, I got a bombshell. Nexus Tech's client database had been hacked during my absence, and my boss was furious. "Get back to work, Claire, or you're done," Rachel Winters texted. The pressure was suffocating, but I was trapped in a hospital bed, barely able to move. By day 4, things got worse. A sepsis infection spiked my fever, and I was rushed into emergency surgery. As they wheeled me in, the hospital's power flickered, an outage that nearly killed me when my ventilator stalled. Backup generators kicked in at the last second, but I felt death's shadow hovering. When I woke, Rachel was there, her face pale. "You're a fighter, Claire." I wanted to believe her, but every beep of the monitor reminded me how alone I was. Then Vanessa called. I fumbled to answer, hoping for a shred of care. "Hey, Claire," she said, her voice breezy. "Sucks about your accident. Anyway, Penelope just hit 50K followers. Her new stress relief toys are trending." She rambled about her pig for 3 minutes, never asking about my condition, then hung up for Penelope's afternoon walk. I stared at the ceiling, anger replacing despair. I wasn't just invisible. I was irrelevant. Physical therapy started on day 5, and it was hell. Every step felt like knives slicing through my pelvis, but I gritted my teeth, refusing to give up. My therapist, Brian, pushed me gently. "You're tougher than most, Claire." I laughed bitterly. "No choice. No one's coming to save me." That night, Rachel sat with me during her break, sharing her own story of cutting ties with a toxic family. "Sometimes you have to choose yourself," she said. Her words planted a seed. On day 7, the hospital social worker Emily Carter visited. "Is there anyone else we should call?" she asked, her pen hovering over her clipboard. "No," I said, the word heavy. "There's no one." But in that moment, I realized I didn't need them. I could build a life where I mattered. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. I was leaving Chicago, my family, and the pain they'd caused me. I'd start over, somewhere they couldn't find me. By day 8, my family finally showed up, and it was worse than their absence. They burst into my room, Margaret, Thomas, Vanessa, and, unbelievably, Penelope, decked out in a fake service animal vest. My mother clutched a bouquet of pig-shaped balloons, each one blaring, "Oink your way to recovery." I stared, speechless, as Vanessa let Penelope clamber onto my bed, her hooves jabbing my broken leg. "Parking was a nightmare," Vanessa whined. "Penelope's paws are sore from the walk." My father shuffled awkwardly by the door. "You look better than we expected," he mumbled. "When did you expect to see me?" I asked, my voice sharp. "I've been here a week, in a coma." My mother waved a manicured hand. "Penelope's been having separation anxiety since your accident. We think she sensed something was wrong." I blinked, incredulous. "I was on a ventilator. The doctor said I might die." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic, Claire. You're obviously fine." I gestured to the monitors, the casts, the IVs. "I'm not fine. I nearly died, alone." They ignored me, launching into a 20-minute monologue about Penelope's emotional crisis. Vanessa whipped out her phone for a selfie. "Smile, Claire. You look half dead. Try to look cute for Insta." I snapped. "Get out, all of you." My voice shook with rage. "You chose a pig over your dying daughter. You're leaving for a spa appointment. Get out." They left, stunned, Penelope's hooves clicking on the tile. My mother called back, "Call us when you're rational." But as the door closed, relief flooded me. For the first time, I wasn't begging for their scraps. I was done. Rachel and Emily helped me plan my escape. Seattle was my destination, a city far enough to start fresh. I secured a remote contract with Nexus Tech, using my emergency savings for a deposit on a tiny studio. Emily connected me with estrangement support networks, and Rachel helped me arrange discreet medical transport. I wrote a note, my final words to my family. "I've waited my whole life for you to see me. You chose a pig instead. I deserve better. Don't look for me." At dawn, I left Chicago General in a wheelchair, Rachel whispering, "You've got this." The medical transport van carried me away, Chicago's skyline fading in the rearview. Seattle was a shock to the system. My studio was a bare box in a gritty neighborhood, furnished with a creaky bed and a wobbly table from a charity. Every step was agony, my pelvis screaming with each movement, but every small victory, brushing my teeth without collapsing, heating soup without burning myself, felt like defiance. I was alive, and I was free. A week in, a neighbor, Lily Harper, knocked on my door with a cactus and a grin. "Heard you're recovering from something rough. This guy's impossible to kill, like you." Her kindness cracked my defenses, and we became fast friends. Meanwhile, Nexus Tech's hack loomed over me. Rachel Winters emailed, demanding I fix the breach remotely or lose my job. I worked from my bed, propped on pillows, fighting pain and panic to secure the client's data. Then came the first sign they weren't letting go. My old landlord forwarded tracking numbers for packages from my parents, guilt trips in bubble wrap. I refused them, but days later I found a cryptic note in my mailbox. "We know you're here." My heart raced. Had they found me? I changed my number, locked down my accounts, and slept with a kitchen knife under my pillow. Christmas came, and I joined a virtual chosen family dinner with an online estrangement group. We toasted to freedom, my paper cup of cider raised to new beginnings. But Vanessa's email shattered the peace. "Penelope's depressed without you. Mom cried at Christmas because you ruined our photo. No mention of my survival, just their inconvenience." I blocked her, my hands shaking with resolve. In Seattle, I found a trauma recovery group led by Mia, a counselor who'd walked away from her own toxic family. "Family is who shows up," she said, and I felt those words in my bones. I moved in with Ava, a nurse from the group, whose quiet strength anchored me. But the anonymous notes continued, each one more unsettling. "You can't hide forever," one read, tucked under my door. My past was stalking me, and I didn't know how long I could outrun it. As winter turned to spring, I stood in my new home, cane in hand, staring out at Seattle's gray skyline. I was broken, scarred, and hunted, but I was also free. My family had failed me, but I was building something better, a life where I wasn't invisible. The question wasn't whether they'd find me, it was whether I'd be strong enough to face them when they did. And as I traced the scars on my leg, I knew one thing for certain. I was done running. Stood in my Seattle studio gripping my cane, staring at the cryptic note I'd found slipped under my door. "You can't hide forever." The words, scrawled in jagged ink, sent a chill down my spine. I'd fled Chicago to escape my family's neglect, to build a life where I wasn't just the invisible sister of Vanessa and her teacup pig Penelope. But now, barely a month into my new beginning, it felt like they were closing in. My heart pounded as I scanned the empty street outside my window, the Seattle rain blurring the world into a gray haze. Was it my parents, Margaret and Thomas, desperate to drag me back into their dysfunctional orbit? Or worse, Vanessa, whose lies about my accident were already poisoning my reputation? I locked the door, double-checked the deadbolt, and tucked the note into a drawer. I wasn't running anymore, but I wasn't ready to face them either, not yet. My new life in Seattle was fragile, like a house of cards built on a shaky table. The studio apartment was a lifeline, but it was also a reminder of how far I'd fallen. The bare walls, the creaky bed from a charity, the single bulb flickering overhead. It was a far cry from the sleek Winnetka mansion I'd grown up in. Every step I took sent shards of pain through my shattered pelvis, a constant echo of the truck that nearly killed me. But pain was my teacher now, reminding me I was alive, that I'd survived not just the accident, but the deeper wound of being erased by my own family. Each small victory, making coffee without spilling it, hobbling to the bathroom without collapsing, was a rebellion against the life that had tried to crush me. Rachel, my nurse from Chicago General, had planted the seed for this escape. During one of her late-night shifts, As I lay tethered to IVs, she'd shared her own story of breaking free from a family that saw her as a burden. Sometimes, choosing yourself is the only way to survive, she'd said, her eyes steady with hard-won wisdom. Those words echoed as I planned my departure with Emily Carter, the hospital social worker. Emily was a quiet force, her clipboard a shield as she handed me pamphlets on estrangement support networks and affordable housing in Seattle. "You're not the first to need a clean break," she said, her voice kind but firm, "and you won't be the last." Together they helped me arrange a medical transport van, secure a remote contract with Nexus Tech, and draft the note I left behind. "I deserve a family that sees me. Don't look for me." Leaving Chicago felt like shedding a skin that never fit. The van ride was 3 hours of silence, broken only by the hum of the engine and the occasional crackle of the driver's radio. I watched the Illinois skyline fade, replaced by the jagged peaks of the Pacific Northwest. Seattle was my blank slate, but it came with a price. My emergency savings were dwindling, drained by the deposit on this shoebox apartment. Nexus Tech's hacked client database loomed over me like a guillotine. Rachel Winters, my boss, had emailed again, her tone sharp. "Fix this breach, Claire, or you're out. The client's threatening to sue." I was still on crutches, my body a patchwork of scars and pain, but I had no choice. I worked from my bed, laptop balanced on a pillow, fighting to secure the client's data while my fever spiked and my vision blurred. Lily Harper, my neighbor, was the first crack of light in this new world. She showed up on my second day, a cactus in hand and a grin that cut through my defenses. "Heard you're recovering from something gnarly," she said, her red curls bouncing as she leaned against my doorframe. "This guy's tough as nails, like you." Lily was a freelance graphic designer, her apartment a riot of color and chaos compared to my sterile space. She started checking in daily, bringing groceries or just stories about her disastrous Tinder dates. "You're not alone here," she said one evening, handing me a mug of tea. I wanted to believe her, but the anonymous note in my drawer whispered otherwise. The danger came without warning. One night as I hobbled through my physical therapy exercises, the building's fire alarm screamed to life. My heart lurched. Memories of the hospital's near-fatal power outage flooded back. The hallway filled with shouting neighbors, and I grabbed my crutches, pain shooting through my leg as I stumbled toward the stairs. The elevator was out, and the stairwell was a nightmare. Each step felt like my surgical wounds were tearing open, and halfway down, I slipped, my crutches clattering to the landing. A neighbor hauled me up, but blood seeped through my bandages by the time I reached the street. The fire was a false alarm, but the damage was done. At the ER, the doctor warned me I'd delayed my recovery by weeks. Lying in that sterile bed, I felt the weight of my vulnerability. I wasn't just healing from a truck. I was fighting to exist. Back in my apartment, I found another note. "We're closer than you think." My blood ran cold. I called Lily, my voice shaking. "Someone's watching me." She was at my door in minutes, her usual humor replaced by steel. "You're not dealing with this alone, Claire. We'll figure it out." We checked the building's security footage, but the grainy video showed nothing, just a shadow passing my door at 2 a.m. I tightened my digital security, changing passwords and locking down my account. As a cybersecurity analyst, I knew how to protect data, but protecting myself was another story. Vanessa's betrayal didn't help. I discovered she'd been posting on Instagram, claiming I'd faked my injuries for clout. Her followers ate it up, flooding my old accounts with hate. The lies stung, but they also lit a fire. I wasn't going back to that toxicity. Christmas was my first test of solitude. Instead of wallowing, I joined a virtual, chosen family dinner with an online estrangement support group. We shared stories of survival, toasting with whatever we had, my paper cup of cider raised to new beginnings. but Vanessa's email shattered the fragile peace. Penelope's depressed without you. Mom cried at Christmas because you ruined our photo. No concern for my survival, just their inconvenience. I blocked her, my hands trembling with resolve. I was done being their scapegoat. The trauma recovery group in Seattle became my anchor. Led by Mia, a counselor who'd cut ties with her own abusive family, it was a safe haven where I could speak my truth. Family is who shows up, Mia said, her words echoing Rachel's. Ava, a nurse from the group, offered me a room in her 2-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill. Moving in with her was a leap of faith, but her quiet strength, bringing me soup when I overdid therapy, sitting with me through nightmares, felt like the family I'd never had. Yet the notes kept coming. One slipped into my mailbox, read, "You're not as safe as you think." I started sleeping with my phone under my pillow, checking the locks obsessively. Nexus Tech's pressure didn't let up. The hacked client filed a lawsuit, and Rachel Winters demanded I return to work full-time, remotely or not. "You're the best we've got, Claire, but you're on thin ice," she warned. I poured myself into the code, tracing the breach to a sophisticated ransomware attack. Working through pain and exhaustion, I patched the system, but the client's threats hung over me. Then came the bombshell. Vanessa had hacked my work email, leaking my Seattle address to our parents. I found out when a colleague forwarded a screenshot of Vanessa's smug post. "Found my runaway sister. Time for a family reunion." My stomach dropped. They knew where I was. I consulted a lawyer, Kathleen Barnes, who specialized in family harassment. "Document everything," she said, her voice calm but firm. "If they escalate, we'll file for a restraining order." I bought a burner phone, changed my email, and set up VPNs to mask my location, but the fear lingered. One night, a gas leak forced our building to evacuate. I hobbled out on crutches, the rain soaking me as I nearly collapsed in the street. A firefighter steadied me, but I saw a figure watching from across the road, their face obscured by a hood. Was it my imagination? Or were they holding a photo? My childhood face flashed in my mind, and I shivered, not from the cold. The Seattle Tech Conference was my chance to reclaim my power. I'd been invited to give a keynote on ransomware threats, a make-or-break moment for my career. I prepared obsessively, my slides polished to perfection, but as I stepped onto the stage, my heart stopped. 3rd row, center. My parents, Margaret and Thomas, staring up at me. Their faces were unreadable, older than I remembered, but their presence was a gut punch. I forced myself to focus, delivering a speech that drew gasps and applause. The CEO of a rival firm approached afterward, offering a job in San Francisco. "You're a star, Claire," he said. I smiled, but my eyes kept darting to my parents, lingering at the back of the room. That night, at the conference dinner, they approached. "Claire, please," my mother said, her voice trembling. "Can we talk?" I hesitated, every instinct screaming to run, but I needed answers. We sat at a corner table, the hum of the restaurant muffling our words. "We miss you," my father said, his hands fidgeting. "We didn't realize how bad things were." Before I could respond, Vanessa stormed in, Penelope in her arms, fake service vest and all. "You're having a secret meeting without me?" she shrieked, drawing stairs. I stood, my cane steadying me. "This is why I left," I said, my voice low but fierce. "You prioritize a pig over your own sister. You let me lie in a coma while you walked her." Vanessa scoffed. "Penelope's sick because of you. Her fur's falling out from stress." I laid out my terms. Respect my boundaries, acknowledge the harm, stop putting Penelope above me. "I'm not invisible anymore," I said. Vanessa laughed, but my parents were silent, their faces pale. I left cash for my drink and walked out, my heart pounding but my head high. Back in my hotel room, I called Ava. I did it, I said, tears choking my voice. I stood up to them. She cheered. That's my girl. You're unstoppable. The next day, a colleague pulled me aside. Vanessa's been trashing you in Chicago's tech circles, he said. Says you're unstable, faking your injuries to dodge work. My blood boiled. She wasn't just chasing me. She was trying to ruin me. Then came the letter from my parents, slipped under my hotel door. We're in therapy, it read. Vanessa's moved out. We want to try again. Meet us tomorrow, no Penelope. I stared at the words, torn between hope and distrust. Among their forwarded packages, I found a childhood diary I'd forgotten. Its pages held my mother's handwriting. Claire's first coding award, so proud. They'd noticed me once, before Vanessa's manipulation twisted them. Could they change? I met them at a quiet cafe, my terms clear. No more favoritism, no more Penelope over me. If you slip, I'm gone for good, my mother cried, reaching for my hand. We failed you, Claire. We're trying to understand why. My father admitted Vanessa's lies had fractured their family too. For the first time, I saw cracks in their perfect facade. I agreed to limited contact, phone calls, maybe visits, but I held this is for me, not you, I said. As we parted, I felt lighter, but not naive. Healing wasn't a fairy tale, it was a battlefield. On my flight back to Seattle, I saw him, a stranger in the airport clutching a photo that looked like me at 10, smiling with a trophy. His eyes locked on mine, then he vanished into the crowd. My heart raced. Was he their investigator, or something darker? Back in Seattle, surrounded by Ava, Lily, and my chosen family, I raised a glass to freedom. The shadows of my past were still out there, but I was no longer their prey. I was Claire Henderson, survivor, fighter, and for the first time, truly seen.